Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to part 2 of finding the perfect fig pot. So here are the 2 pots that we had found on our shopping. If you haven't seen it, go to part 1. I'll try to link it above. And these are the 2 pots that we found. So this one here is a Fortiflex. It's a tough bucket, I think it's called, or a muck bucket. And it is 70 quarts, so 17 gallons. And this was from Tractor Supply, and it costs, I think it was about $20. And it's very sturdy, not a lot of flex to it. And I don't know if it says UV protection. It doesn't say, but I would imagine this could possibly have UV protection on it. 2 handles, which I really was looking for to make moving easier, and a curved rim for strength and support. And the bottom is curved in a little bit, and it's very strong. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now here is the Walmart bucket. So this is, again, 17 gallons. Very similar, as you can tell, but let me see if I can show you. Here's the difference. See that dimpling? See how that's pushing in pretty easily? It's a very thin bucket. Same thing on the top. It's very thin. But it does have the handles. Would make it easier to carry. The handles are on the lip of the bucket versus an item on the side that could break off. And again, this might just break the lip. I'm highly doubting this has any UV protection. So if I had to guess, if you're looking for a long-term pot, this is going to do very well. This will last. It's the right size. It's not going to get top heavy when you have a big tree in it. It's not going to fall over in your garden all the time. As your tree gets 6 feet plus tall, you are going to have to support it. But it's not like some of the 5-gallon buckets I have that fall over constantly no matter what you try to do. The thing about the Walmart bucket, though, is, well, first of all, they come in a lot of colors, which my wife liked, and it's only $5. I mean, $5 for a pot when you have an orchard with, I think I've got at least 50 trees. You know, there's a big difference there. You're talking $1,000 to pot with these, and you're talking $250 to pot with these. Now, I may not do all the trees, but it's something to think about. And if I had to guess, from wear and tear, this bucket here would probably last a good 5 years. Best guess, 5 years, I'm going to say, before it gets damaged, rotted from the sun, whatever. This guy here, I think you'll be happy if you get 2 years out of. So let's say this takes 5 years, this takes 2 years. So 2.5 times the length. So $5 times 2.5. Help me with my math here. It's somewhere in that $12.50 range. Hopefully I got that right. Engineer degree. But you know, I'm starting to think this might be good enough, and I think it might help with one other thing, which is root pruning. So most of my trees at this point are pretty mature. You know, a couple years old. I don't have a lot of new trees because I have been trying to cut back, and they have to be root pruned probably every other year, maybe every 3. So if these buckets do last 2 years and then have to be replaced, it will help motivate me to root prune as well. Whereas if this guy lasts 5 years, guess what? I'm probably gonna take 5 years to root prune again. Just when you have so many trees, you just seem to run out of time pretty easily. So I think I'm gonna try both of them. I think I'm gonna stock up on some of these cheap pots before they're gone, because I do have a lot of pots that are either breaking or are a little too small. You know, folks said, why not use the garden pots or the landscaping pots that you get, tree pots from the garden center? They're not real easy to find, and if you buy them online, they're pretty expensive, especially for shipping. And the other thing is they don't have handles. So yeah, I could probably get the heavy-duty ones online for a pretty expensive price and make the handles and make it work. But if I'm going to do that, I might as well go with this tough bucket that's already all set up. Neither one has holes, so I am going to go through now and try to set these up for how I would use them. But I did want to give a quick overview of each of the pots. So here we are with the 2 Walmart buckets, the 17-gallon buckets that I'm going to try using. Someone in the comments section had mentioned using these as self-watering containers. So I did want to take a look at that. The easiest way to use a self-watering container is to put the two pots on top of each other, which then will create a small air layer down below. But, so what I'm thinking is, at some point, these ropes will compress a little bit more, and you're only going to really be left with about that much space of water. So down here, you're only going to be left with maybe an inch for water. It's not going to hold very much. It's certainly better than nothing, but I don't know if it's going to be worth the trouble of those two pots. I think what I am going to do is, if you remember an older video I had these Southern Patio self-watering inserts. I just have them laying around, so I think I'm going to use some of them up, and I'm just going to put them in the pot just a little bit above the level of the rim, kind of like this. So I'll put some soil in first and then put these in, and you know, that, if I had to guess, would give me almost the same amount of water as doubling these up, and I have these laying around. I don't think you need to do that. I just have these laying around, and they were what, $1 on clearance at Lowe's, so it doesn't hurt if you have them laying around. We're also gonna have to put a drain hole in these. You'll notice there's no drain hole, and so I was kind of arguing with myself back and forth. Can't be the only one that does that. And was trying to figure out if I wanted to put the drain holes on the bottom or on the side. And I think I want to put them on the side. And the reason I say that is, if I put this fig tree pot on the grass or someplace where I don't have something solid under it, and you can hear Teresa over there making all sorts of noise. She's cleaning up some of the garden beds. It's spring. But, you know, they have these areas where you can drill out if you want on the bottom. But what I'm afraid of is the fig roots spreading and growing out and having to cut them at the end of the year, which isn't a big deal. It just can be a bit difficult to get the pot moved, get them cut, and get them out of there. And chances are, with this thin pot, I would break it. So I think I'm going to put the holes on the side. I don't want to make them real big, just enough to let moisture out so this doesn't fill up. I don't want to drown the roots. But I also don't mind there being a little bit of a wet root area. In the self-watering pots I do have, not this, but the normal self-watering pots, when you go to up-pot these or root prune them, what you'll notice is those water reservoirs get completely filled with roots. So the figs don't mind having wet feet. So I think I'm going to drill the hole up a little higher in hopes that that will help, A, with sturdiness, because it's a little bit thicker up here, and B, I do have trouble keeping up with watering in the summer often, so it'll give them a little bit of extra water in their pot to soak up. And you know, if you're talking only a couple of inches, those fig trees will go through that. A big fig tree will go through that in a matter of moments, you know, maybe half an hour. The large fig trees use a lot of water. They can survive without it, but if you don't want them to drop their leaves, you don't want them to drop their fruit, they need to have that consistent moisture. So I'm going to go ahead and drill just 2 holes. I think I want it above the second rim. It's a little higher than I would like, and that's a little lower than I would. You know what, I'm going to do it right at the top of the first rib. Okay, I'm going to do one on that side. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to do one on this side. Okay, and that's it. Just 2 holes. That's going to allow me to have water drain out of there. Now I have to mix up some potting mix to put in here, and I'll show you that. Okay, and here are the materials I'm going to use to make up my potting mix. So I've got my Pro Mix HP. I've got lime. I've got mini nugget pine bark. And I've got mushroom compost. Now, because this is not going to be used for new or young trees, this is going to be used to up-pot, repot. I guess you can consider it all up-potting, because once you root prune the trees, or some of the trees I'm going to use are smaller, you're really just up-potting. So, because I'm up-potting, my mix is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be pretty much, if I had to guess, 1/3 Pro Mix, 1/3 mini bark, just a little bit of lime, like a cup, you know, per pot type of thing, and then some of the mushroom compost. and maybe even a little bit lighter on the mushroom compost, just because, I don't think it's necessary to have that much organic material, especially if you're fertilizing throughout the year, but I do like to have some. So the mushroom compost is for organic material. The mini nuggets are really just more for aeration of the soil, or I guess you could say space for the roots to grow so that they don't get too compacted. And then the Pro Mix potting mix is kind of the base. You could do all Pro Mix potting mix. It would certainly work, especially if you're using the high porosity, the HP. But the problem is it just gets expensive. A bale, I think it's $40 a bale, and a bale would do probably 4 trees. So I mix in some of the mini pine bark nuggets to kind of offset the cost a little bit. I wouldn't use a different type of potting mix solely, like Miracle Grow or something that is a much heavier mix. I think your trees would get, a little bit more water than they need to, or sit in a little bit too much water. Now, that being said, I have up-potted with just Miracle Grow or whatever I have on hand. Up-potting is going to be a little bit less finicky because you've already got your base, unless you're bare rooting your plant altogether, which I usually do not do. So this is the mix that I like to use. I won't say that I always use it. I tend to use just what I have on hand, but because I needed to go out and buy some stuff today, I got kind of my creme de la creme that I prefer, if you will. So let me go ahead and mix some of this up. Alright, first item is going to be the pine bark mini nuggets. I don't want to put too much in at one time because I don't want to have to try to mix it all in a large batch, so I'm going to do a little bit by little bit. Here's the lime. This will be the Pro Mix. Okay, and let me get the compost. Alright, here's the compost. Okay, it's probably a little more compost than I would have liked, but it's fine. This is just the first layer. And I'm actually going to keep pouring all this stuff in. But for me, it's just easier to mix it before I pour everything in. Get all these big chunks broken up. Big chunk of potting mix. Okay, and that's pretty much my mix. Looking at it, might be a little bit light on pine nuggets, but I can add a little bit more as I go here. Okay, so I've got my potting mix all mixed up, and now I'm going to start by at least putting just a little bit into here. Now, what I want to check is those holes I drilled. I want to make sure that I have something so where all the soil's not going to just fall out of there. And usually I do that by just positioning a piece of pine bark nugget over the hole. Nothing fancy. So I'll just get enough in there to where it's at that level. And I'll take one of these nuggets. I'll pop it there. You could also just use a coffee filter. It's probably easier. But, well, actually this is definitely easier because I'm being lazy. Let's see if I can find the other hole. There it is. And get one more decent sized nugget. Let's see. Like this here. Put that nugget up against it. And then backfill it around. And that'll make sure not to block the hole, but put enough in there. Okay, so next, I'm going to put enough in to get this guy up to about there. I just realized this guy popped out. Okay, so I just want to get that up to about there. This guy here is connected to a float down in the bottom of it. It's supposed to tell you if it needs water or not. I find it pretty useless, honestly. So I just come in and fill it every once in a while. So let me get this put in and I'll show you the result. Alright, so I've got the pot filled where I want it. I've got the little self-watering additive thingy in there. What do they call that thing? Self-watering insert. There we go. Self-watering insert is in. And I've got this Coledam Grise that is going to be the first tree that I put in. Beautiful Coledam. I want to give this an early start, so I'll get it in there and move the whole thing to the greenhouse. You can see it's definitely in need of a bigger pot. Let's see if I can get this off easily to show you while holding the camera. Nope. Alright, let me pause this for a second. Okay, so I've got the tree out. You can see it's a little root bound, but not terrible. Even still, I'm going to get something here and rough this up a little bit. Alright, so I've got a garden trowel with a serrated edge on it. And all I'm going to do is rough up this root ball, get some of these roots broken up, especially around the top area here. You don't have to worry. You're going to cut some of the roots. That's fine. They will be fine. You're going to rough this up real good. I'm going to do it all the way around, and I'll show you the end result. Okay, so I've got the roots nice and scuffed up like I want them. That'll help them put out some new growth, avoid circling. And you can see I got this thing all knocked out of whack. Put that back up. And this guy is going to go. Well, it might not be able to go right in the middle with that self-watering pot, or self-watering insert in here, but I'll get it close at least. Probably be somewhere right around there. So let me go ahead and fill that in now with the remaining potting mix, and I'll show you how it looks. Okay, and here is the tree all potted up. You can see the self-watering insert in there, and you'll notice I left enough room on the top of the pot to put some mulch. I will put mulch, either pine nuggets or just pine, the regular pine mulch, non-colored, and get that going. So I'm going to see if this will fit in the greenhouse. I'd like to give this tree a real good head start. So let's go see if I can bring it back there. Okay, so I've got the tree in the greenhouse. I'm just going to water it in. I didn't want to do this beforehand because I didn't want to have to carry it while it was wet, because it will add a good, 10-20 pounds to it. I'm going to fill up that water insert. And if the soil, the potting mix, if it settles significantly here, I may add some more. At some point, though, you just want to get it into the greenhouse before it gets too heavy. And this tree, I'll show you a zoomed out picture once I'm done watering here, but this thing's going to take up a good portion of the greenhouse, so I'm not sure how many trees I'll be able to fit in here, maybe one or two more. Alright, let me finish this up and I'll show you the final product. So I have to be honest with you, I didn't think this tree was that big. Once that leafs out, it's going to take up a significant portion of my greenhouse. So, what I'll probably do is leave it in here for a week or two, let it leaf out. Our last frost is May, so I might bring this back towards the garage in a couple of weeks after it's leafed out. And if I have to do the fig shuffle, which is where you bring it in at night and put it out in the morning, then I can do that. But I did want to give it an early start in order to get these figs to ripen at a decent time this year. So, we'll see how it goes.